and I'll go through the top 10, and I'll see if anyone can pick up a pattern. It's pretty easy. So number 1 is Burberry. Second is Skittles. Next, Cadbury Cream Egg. Next, Topshop. Cadbury Whisper. ASOS. Cadbury Dairy Milk Chocolate. Roundtree Randoms. And Net-a-Porter. Is there a common theme here? Food and fashion. Food and fashion. That's all it is. If you want to be successful in Facebook, you've just got to be in food or fashion. So I mean, so what does this tell us? Does it tell us that UK people are just kind of like fashionable people who just like to eat chocolate all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that it? Yeah. Like they're kind of worried about their waistline all the time. They're kind of either looking in the mirror or kind of eating chocolate. Maybe that's the case. But it probably has more to do with the fact that something like chocolate and these brands is something that we've always liked. These are brands that we liked as a kid. So we have this great kind of memory of those brands. We liked them as a teenager, and we continue to like them as an adult. So it's like these brands which have always been a part of us, and we can remember the TV jingles when we were growing up, and they're sort of almost part of sort of British identity in some respects. And I guess that's when I look at my own pages, I think, well, there's a lot of brands that I liked as a kid that I don't like anymore. I kind of do, but I wonder, I didn't put Lego or something like, or Matchbox, but I guess those were things that I grew out of. But a lot of the brands that succeed are the ones that are just part of us and have always been with us. And then I think in the case of fashion, there's a very easy way to explain this, and one of them has to do with the evolution of traditional media, and that although the magazine industry will try and tell you that readership of magazines is going up, the reality is the actual number of magazines which are being sold is actually decreasing. And so magazine publishers, they often like to talk about the number of people who read their magazines. So they talk about sharing a lot. So one magazine might be read by 5 people, and now they say it's like 10. You know what I mean? But the reality is, sales of magazines in categories like women's fashion, for example, are either sort of at a straight level or going down. The only kind of magazine territory where there is any kind of real growth is celebrity magazines, and even that just depends on whether or not they have a photo of Beyonce's baby or not. So it's a very treacherous area. And I think also in terms of magazines and fashion, it's magazines, as they say in their own words, is something that's shared. And I think that there's probably a lot of women here who can say that they often will sit with friends and kind of talk about magazines or share magazines or read magazines together. And so a lot of that is just transferring online as well. So when we look at kind of the things that are succeeding, the things that we've always enjoyed doing. It's just like a natural evolution. We've loved eating chocolate since we were a kid, and that goes online. And sharing pictures of dresses and things is something we've always, well, not we, but women have always done, and that's going online as well. So just to sum up there, transferring the things we like doing offline. This is how we can succeed online. So I mentioned before about these 3 areas that Daniela and I work in on a daily basis, about social business, content and conversation, and digital influence. And I wanted to talk just a little bit about each of these and how they may go some way to understand, or how they may go some way to creating a better, more successful Facebook page if we're not working for a chocolate brand or a fashion brand, and we've got a bit of catching up to do. So the first area here is in terms of social business, and there are many people with various different definitions of this. Has anyone heard this term before? Yeah. So for us, it really refers to, as I said before, about socialize the enterprise, how we can really understand social media at a very strategic level. So not really in terms of we're not really thinking in terms of creative just yet, but we're thinking about why we should use it and what is the best way to use it. And we are working with top brands to help guide them and how they can roll out social media in a very sustained and strategic way, as opposed to just kind of launching sites all over the place. And if you look at some of these brands that I've mentioned, like Skittles and Burberry, for example, you can see that there's a very clear strategy behind it. And fair enough that they've got 10 and 15 million people to entertain on a daily basis, but I think that's all begun from understanding the platform and what it's really there for. So a lot of the times we spend a bit of time kind of developing a social media blueprint or social media communications blueprint, and as I said, really trying to understand what is the purpose of the different channels we want to use. And in the case of something like Facebook, what would you think would be the principal reason to use it? Would you use it to sell products? Yes?
Sorry, you mean for the product?
Well, what do you think is the real strategic reason to use Facebook?
Because everyone is there.
That's a good idea. Yeah. That's part of it. Yes.
Communicate with the customer, not because there are other channels to promote products, to push information, that Facebook would allow to engage with the customer and permitting him to ask questions and interact with them.
Cool. So engagement. Anything else? Same. Yeah. It's pretty much true, isn't it? Definitely that kind of ability to engage people on a daily basis, kind of nurturing a community, giving them content. Definitely, it's a great platform for that, as opposed to other platforms like YouTube, which may be more for kind of information or entertainment, or Twitter, which can be a useful tool for immediate feedback or customer helplines. I've had some good experiences with British Airways, by the way, when I've been in a queue and been really pissed off, and I've tweeted and they've replied quite quickly. So some brands get it right, not many. So it's really important, first of all, to understand the real reason we're going to use Facebook as a platform. And I think that once you have set the guidelines of how we're going to use it and how we're going to roll it out, then I think that you're setting yourself good foundations. Because I think, as we all know, it's a very simple and straightforward process to turn on a Facebook page. But in order to kind of maintain it and to acquire members, that's the more challenging part. When it comes on to developing the page, I think, again, it's interesting to look at these top brands and just to see, I'm not here looking just at the numbers, but how simple it is sometimes. It's like, sometimes I think some brands kind of invest too much money and try to become too clever, and sometimes you see like, half sort of a dozen tabs down the side there, and it's almost like they're trying to replicate what they already have on their website and trying to make that wholly within Facebook. But it seems that many of the most successful brands don't really have many tabs at all. And in the case of the super popular pages like the music and film pages, have very few tabs as well. So often it's the kind of notion of keeping it simple can be quite effective as well, and knowing, because what the purpose is to communicate, it is to engage. So do we really need to engage about 20 different things? There are a couple of tools which I'm sure you're aware of, which can help to kind of get noticed. I think that when you're talking about a network which has almost 1 billion people, and there's all of these pages and all competing for people's attention, I read recently that every time people publish to their Twitter or to their Facebook, as few as just 5% of their followers were ever actually going to see that update. So it's a pretty remarkable investment when you think of how few people are actually going to see that information. Is anyone here familiar with EdgeRank? Sorry. Yes? No? No? Daniela, do you know? Yes? Of course. So EdgeRank is an algorithm that determines which pages go onto the news feed, onto the front page, and there's a website. I think it's called just edgeranker.com, where you can is that correct? Yeah, where you can just put in a web page, and it can kind of show you the results of that algorithm. But essentially, it just comes down to three things, which is affinity, weight, and time decay. It's not my words, but so these are sort of three factors that you need to kind of consider when you're producing a page or when you're planning your page. So before you've even launched it, and so the affinity relates a lot to kind of who you're connected to and how well connected they are. So obviously, if I'm your friend and you've got lots of friends and so forth, this can be a great asset. Weight. So different pieces of content are said to have different weight or different importance. So in many cases, that's video, because video tends to be quite well weighted. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean video is the best content solution if your audience has not proven that they like video in the past. But video photo tends to work the best. And time decay means that the longer you wait to add a new update, the less your algorithm drops a little bit. So that's not to say you should be updating your Facebook page 20 times a day, because that could actually have the adverse effect. But it's very important to kind of understand the right frequency and even the right time of day according to who you're trying to reach.